talk about the cuts, you would think that they would cut the most expensive things, but actually with schools and hospitals, the most expensive things are the PFI things, and they were up to 5 times more expensive than it should have been, but those are the legal contracts that will be kept. So that's quite an important argument to think, why is it that it's the non-PFI stuff that will get in the net? But that would be the cheapest to sustain. The second thing was relating to partly why another organisation. Now I don't know, but I imagine why another organisation, because its genesis is in another city, right? I mean, and what we're looking to do as more and more organisations like this get together in different towns and cities, obviously we would look towards some kind of a national, I don't know if platform, or I don't know if people should sit for hours arguing about a bloody programme again. We don't really need that, but we do need a sense of consciousness and to achieve a certain level whereby you would expect to hear us, I dread the mainstream media, but you might expect to see a representative of this national organisation on Newsnight, etc.
I think, for obvious reasons, people's thoughts are focused on the cuts, and somebody said that the current situation, current crisis is caused by banking. The current crisis is caused by capitalism, and it was bound to happen because it will always seek to maximise its profits, and if that means making workers unemployed here and taking it somewhere else to be cheaper, then that is the way capitalism works. What I think is important to see beyond the cuts and to understand that the cuts, the economic crisis, is a gift to the ruling class, because the attack is an ideological attack. It's their attack on the working class, on the whole of everybody who isn't the ruling class, about how society is organised, and the rights of us to decide that we actually want to live differently and we want our society to be organised differently. And by making the kinds of cuts and the kinds of statements that they make, the majority of people who are not political activists and may not have any particular political education can a lot of the time actually believe that we have this huge deficit that has got to be reduced, and they actually accept, well, we're in a bad way, we need to cut the deficit. They keep telling us we've got to cut the deficit and we need to cut it. The deficit at the present time is smaller than it was after the Second World War. And after the Second World War, we had the establishment of the NHS, we had a house building programme, and this is a way of conning the majority of people, not just in this country, obviously, we're part of an international situation, and it's a way of making ordinary people think that they actually have had it good, when millions of people have not had it good, for many, many years have not had it good, families have not had it good, and I worked for 13 years with homeless families in Manchester, and I know just how bad they've had it for many years, but making them believe that this we're all in it together and that they have a responsibility to reduce this deficit. We need to make it clear ideologically. The wealth in this country, in this world, is produced by us. Not by them, it's produced by us. They haven't given us anything. We've earned it and we've worked for it. We're entitled to it. And we need to understand that within the cuts thing, it's ideological to destroy the way that we would like society to be, and any thoughts that we might have about changing it. And we need to do it on the two levels. Yes, we've got to fight the cuts, but we need to educate people to understand what the real agenda is.
And I'll just draw people's attention, as I am doing every now and then, to the statement from the Convention of Elect, which I hope we're going to agree later. The top of page 2 says very clearly, the government claims the cuts are unavoidable because the welfare state has been too generous. But it is working people who have funded the welfare state through taxation and insurance. It's ordinary people who have to pay for the bankers' bonuses. And I won't give you too many guesses as who wrote that and put it into the statement.
I would agree with those people who say that we need to take our inspiration from those opportunities that are open to us by things like the resolution of the TUC, which certainly is a lot stronger than many of us had feared it might be. But to work at that at all levels, I think the action doesn't just start in the next weeks, I think the action needs to start in the next hours, and there are already people resisting. I think that as a union activist, I'm very pleased when I see that the RMT in London, for example, took very successful action in terms of the level of disruption and the level of public support they got to defend safety on the network that gets me to work every day. I'm particularly pleased that, as Mick said, the firefighters in London are balloting against what are, as Hussein said, murderous cuts if they get away with carrying those through. But I also know, in my 30 years of trade union activism, that some of the things that have sustained me, and more importantly have sustained less political workers, has been action from the community. The best action I was ever involved in was when I was a nursery worker and was on strike and in occupation together with parents of the kids I was looking after, because that was a really solid action where we were actually seeing communities of resistance fighting back against what was being meted out to us. I think in terms of the questions for the left, I think we have to separate the question of solidarity and the baseline around which we form organisations, which I think needs to be very broad, very limited slogans, no to all cuts, no to all privatisations, and the sort of alternatives that we put forward, which there will be differences on. But unless we're able to develop a vision of the future, and for me that also has to be an eco-socialist vision, a vision where we put a sustainable future forward, where we promote the ideas put forward in slogans like 1 million green jobs more concretely, then I think we're also shirking our responsibility for the left. But we shouldn't confuse that with saying, you know, to somebody you just meet who's come out to a meeting or come on a demonstration because they want to save their kids' school, or they want to make sure the swimming pool doesn't close or whatever. Oh, you have to sign up to this long thing, because that's a different level of discussion. And I think we don't sustain momentum if we confuse the question of the basis on which we unite with the basis on which we discuss. And I think it's the fact that the Convention of the Left has got that right, which means that this has been a successful organisation over the last 3 years, and I believe will continue to be so. I also think that the work that the Coalition of Resistance has been doing also understands that, which is to bring in people who are struggling and organising in their communities and in their workplaces. One of the things that's very clear is a lot of the energy that the Coalition of Resistance has been garnering has been amongst young people who are absolutely horrified at the world that's being dished out to them, and wanting to get involved and wanting to have a way of resisting, but also, I think, prepared to learn from those of us who've been involved for longer. So I hope people won't see that initiative, or any initiative that's being taken to resist the cuts, as being counterposed to each other. Get involved in them all, and together we'll be stronger.